Okay, I don't see no little Wi-Fi sign. Looks good. We had some technical difficulties, but now we are back. Dang, now I see the thing. The Wi-Fi thing came up again. Fairly good. Try plugging into your router or moving closer. Like my router is like right here, so I don't know what the problem is. And it says I'm getting 866 megabytes per second. So what's wrong with my Wi-Fi?
It's good right now. You now.
Hallelujah. Okay. So everything's good now. So we already did our talk. So you want to just, do the countdown and roll with it?
Yeah, we
are having. Huh?
We can. So close.
I'm close.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work on it, Andre. Let me. Oh my gosh. How much further back do you want me to be?
Yeah, there we go. Like, because I feel like there we go. That's a good spot right there. Boom.
Oh my gosh, I'm like far away.
I know because you zoomed in. Man, I don't know. I thought you could adjust it. You were able to adjust it before.
I can, but I don't. Let me say something, because you gonna keep on keeping.
Don't worry about it. You're good. You're good. You just gonna be far away. Yeah, I said you were good. You just said you felt far.
Okay. All right. So we'll be right back.
Scoot up a little more.
Huh?
And I'm scooting up a little more just so I can match you.
Okay, so then our heads are like right at the top?
Mm-hmm. So I'm scooting up. Okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay. And we are back after some technical. I can't even say that. See, we having so much technical difficulties that I can't even say technical difficulties. Can you say it with me, Andre? Technical difficulty. Okay, we got it out. Look, let's take a second because we are in Facebook jail. It might be my fault. It might be my fault. Let's take a second I'm going to share it to our Vibe Political page right now. And so our people on our page will know we're online. How about that? Want me to go ahead and pin it too? So, since we live right now?
Yeah, we can pin it. We can go ahead and pin it.
It's so funny. It has that picture, our cover photo.
I like that though.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I shared it. I shared it there. Ooh, I almost gave up. Andre, I almost gave up. Okay, so I'm going to pin this one now. Well, I don't see how to pin it. So I'm going to share it to my page.
We can pin it after the show. It's fine. Because there's something else pinned already. So.
Yep. Okay, so I shared it on both. So if people want to join, they can join. Okay, so, Andre, it's been a lot happening this week. Some things I wanted to talk about. Most assuredly, the top thing of the day is Juneteenth being signed as a federal holiday, which means that we're off tomorrow. It means a lot more than that, but it does mean that we're off tomorrow. I feel like I had mixed emotions about the whole being signed into a federal holiday, but I think I landed on positive ones. And, in the show, we exist to uplift and edify. Even though some of the truths that we talk about at times might not seem positive, I always think it's the truth that sets you free. And what I think is amazing is like the timing of it all. The fact that critical race theory is, being legislated against. To have Juneteenth today be a federal holiday in connection to critical race theory and all the pushback that it's getting is kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Because this is the first holiday that I can think of that makes America, at least for one day a year now, people will have to acknowledge the sins that the sins, right, that built this nation, that built this nation's White House. They will have to acknowledge the history about the people that America idolizes, like Thomas Jefferson. The founding fathers who said all men are created equal, but they definitely didn't mean black men. I think that it's kind of like, it's something to celebrate because this is the information that, is being made available now. It's going to force people to have to take a pause. And at the time where they're legislating against critical race theory, which I want to get into the details of, and we can define it and all of that. And it's amazing to me. I've not heard any critical race theory, like a person who was against it. I have not heard them properly define it. And I've heard them reduce it to their own interpretations of what it is, with their own definitions of what it is, and their emotional response to critical race theory. It makes sense that people would be against critical race theory, right?
Yeah.
Don't it make sense, Andre? You hear my cats back here having a party?
I don't, because I hear the static again, unfortunately.
The static again?
So I'm hoping that you all are not hearing what I'm hearing.
Testing. Can you hear me now?
I hear you, but you sound far away this time.
Okay. So what I had to do, I did switch my mic. Is there static still?
No.
Let me bring this mic a little bit closer.
There we go. Now you sound good.
Okay. Is this good now?
Yes.
I mean, I could hold it. I could be like, you know what I'm saying?
No, because I don't have a mic. You by yourself.
Okay.
I want a mic.
Does that sound good? Is that better now?
Yeah, it's good now. No more static.
Okay, so now what I need to figure out is how do I get this? I don't see nothing on Firefox. Like, how do I share? Oh, there we go. I ain't never used Firefox before. You know what I'm saying? Because what I was trying to do is go on and pull up my stuff now. We just having all kind of difficulties today. Or I am. Blame it on me. So Andre, okay, talk to me about that. Why do you think that people are against critical race theory?
So I'm gonna give the definition according to the Encyclopedia Britannica of what critical race theory is, because you know I like to provide that academia as to the definition of especially being that this is a very sensitive topic and a topic that needs to be addressed. And I'm going to go into why people are against it in a moment. But I want to give the definition of critical race theory for you all. So critical race theory is the intellectual movement and loosely organized framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not a natural, biologically grounded feature of physically distinct subgroups of human beings. but a socially constructed category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Critical race theorists hold that the law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist, insofar as they function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between whites and non whites, especially African Americans.
Mm.
I'm going to read that last sentence one more time. Critical race theorists hold that the law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist, insofar as they function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between whites and non whites, especially African Americans.
Mm.
So, the reason why I wanted to read that definition for you all and for Brandon is because for me, it really saddens me that people feel that critical race theory is divisive. And the reason why I say that is because Brandon knows who it is, but I sent him a screenshot of someone that we both know that said that very statement. That said that critical race theory is divisive. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to understand how critical race theory is divisive. I'm trying to. For me, when I read this definition, and I just read it to y'all twice, what is divisive about what is true? I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what is divisive about a statement that is true.
Yeah.
These are critical race theorists that actually study critical race theory. These are people that live and breathe critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that anybody, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your background, if you lack the ability to know that the laws and legal institutions that are in the United States are inherently racist, and that if you don't think that, then please
Mm-hmm.
tell me, then give me the opposite. How is it not? How is it not? How is it not then?
Yeah.
And I'm full of Brandon. How is it not racist?
How?
I want you to explain how it isn't. And if
Mm-hmm.
a person can come to me and tell me how it isn't and how it isn't divisive, then we can have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think
And
I
I
think
yeah.
go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, like, for me, critical race theory is a topic that is touchy. It is very
Mm-hmm.
sensitive in nature, and I
Mm-hmm.
understand that it's gonna cause people to be uncomfortable and have those uncomfortable conversations. But I think it's really less than smart for someone to say that critical race theory is divisive
Yeah.
because the because me, I like to provide actual definitions of stuff, right? I love that. Like, I love that's my part in the show, is to
Mm-hmm.
provide you all with academia of things, and to provide that. And I'm gonna give y'all the definition of divisive. Y'all want to know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm gonna tell y'all the definition of divisive. Divisive means tending to cause disagreement or hostility between people.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what divisive means.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone that says that critical race theory is a theory that causes hostility between people, why? How does critical race? I'm really, and I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence, because I feel like there are people on here listening, or that's gonna listen to this and be like, what's Andre talking about? Like, he ain't making sense. I'm trying to understand how critical race theory, and I'm looking at the definition of divisive.
Mm-hmm.
How is that creating hostility between people? What is the reason for hostility when there are literal individuals that study critical race theory?
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at the definition, I'm like, yeah, honey, the laws.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, huh? Yeah, I'm looking at the laws, and the legal institutions in the
Yeah.
United States, and yeah,
I,
I
I
see
think
it.
I think I understand why it's hostile.
And I'm
So
asking
why?
that not, and I'm not asking that like to,
Yeah,
I'm just,
yeah, not yeah. No, I'm just trying to further discussion a little more. I think that the reason why it's seen as hostile, even the idea of critical race theory, is because, like, I think America. I was telling a coworker this the other day, a fellow NCO, not a coworker, a fellow NCO, a soldier in the army. I said we got here. I believe our country got here because we said that we should not talk about religion and we should not talk about politics. But those two things are very central to the life of every American. And when you introduce something that's contrary to what people have been taught, think about people in the church who are gay themselves, who were raised thinking homosexuality is a sin. What do their lives and relationships often look like? Not like Andre and I, where we have the power to authentically live ourselves. We had to come out of that. And so what critical race theory is introducing a side of American history that has been silenced for many, many years. um, Critical race theory is a way of understanding how American racism has shaped public policy, or a divisive discourse that pits people of color against white people. That's how some people are interpreting it, and it creates a sharp disagreement with liberals and conservatives. Um, and there's talks of teaching this in school, and I think Georgia just passed and Texas just passed laws saying it will not be taught in schools. I think Texas went a little bit further and said no mention of racism or any of that. So it's really a strong attempt, a very strong attempt to further legislate against the truth about our nation. It's essentially critical race theory would be the opposite of what Rick Santorum was trying to do when he said that Native American culture don't even have a place in American culture, and that nothing was here until Europeans came.
ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Remember he said all that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the real thing that's divisive is the truth. Think about it. The truth is divisive because you're going to have people who disagree with it, even though they're facts, and even though this is history. Um, so that's kind of like the positive, I think, behind celebrating Juneteenth. It's not enough. First, I was a little bit mad about the whole Juneteenth thing because I'm like, I thought about Malcolm X and how he talked about how, the government, well, he said white people. He said the white man will give you symbolic victories. Um, and this felt like a symbolic victory, but I think it's one that will garner more support, more truth, more focus, and it's like just chipping away. You know what I'm saying? At a stone. When you're making a stone carving, you just chip away and chip away. And I feel like there's enough diversity in the country now. There's enough diverse leadership that if we want this to look differently, we can. And then at the end of it all, we can only choose how we celebrate Juneteenth, right? We can only choose how we honor the ancestors who came before us, the Harriet Tubmans, the Malcolm X's, the people who wanted equality and fought for the rights of all Americans. People love to act like civil rights is just about black people and affirmative action is just about black people, but it helped change the whole shape of the country. Um, and it made some people, conservatives and Republicans, mad, talking about Laura Ingraham talking about we got demographic changes in our country that we didn't vote for. So critical race theory is a deep dive, if you will, into how is America like it is right now. Like we have covered some ground and we have had some progress in this nation, but police brutality has been a thing for decades. You know what I'm saying? Legislate like poverty rates, statistics when it comes to crime and all this stuff. Like everything is skewed towards the black man, even still. Driving while black, even in the military, UCMJ statistics when it comes to the same violations, when it comes to blacks and Latinos, are punished at a more severe rate. So critical race theory is a deep dive into how does all of that impact the society that we live in. And I fully 100% support it being taught in schools by the right people. Just like, we are politically agnostic on this channel, but it's clear that one side is, in my opinion, one side is straight white supremacist to me. as far at least the political party and everything they stand for is against progressive legislation. So it's interesting to me that when it comes to critical race theory and it being taught in schools, that they would be against it, because think about it, the youth of a nation change the trajectory of that nation. I believe the children are our future, right? Like if we teach them what has been the history of this country, in such a way where, you know, we can decide for it to be different, then we'll be free. But that's why Rick Santorum was talking to that group, Young Americans, right? He was talking to young Americans. I think that was the name of, or Young Patriots or something like that. Young people trying to form their minds that Native Americans are. He should. I mean, he basically said Native Americans are savages. So let's take it a step further, because edweek.org published an article, and it's called "What is Critical Race Theory and Why is it Under Attack?" We sort of discussed a couple of the reasons why it's under attack. I feel like white supremacy would have to take a back seat, which is why critical race theory is under attack, because we would tell the truth about the people that we've been so-called to celebrate. Thomas Jefferson, the great founding fathers, they wrote this, they wrote that, but they was racist. They owned slaves. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it was normalized. It was normalized back then.
It was, yes.
And I think Thomas, and I talked about Thomas Jefferson on the show in season 1. About
what show was that?
I can't remember the title. You know, we did so many episodes, but yeah, I want to say it was the morality of good deeds, or it may have been something else. I don't know. Yeah. But I explicitly talked about Thomas Jefferson and about how he owned slaves, and he actually fell in love with a black woman and wanted to marry, but then she was nowhere in the wheel at all. So so it's just a lot of different things like that. You know, so like it was normalized to being racist was normalized, so it wasn't talked about back then.
Yep.
It wasn't. It was a part of life. It was kind of like a part of life. So slaves, it was normal to be a slave. It was normal to be a slave owner. It was normal to be. So yeah, during that time it was. So with critical race theory, that's why I was so bothered when I saw that someone would say that critical race theory is divisive. And I'm glad that you, Brandon, said that, yeah, the truth is divisive. But that's the part that is astonishing to me, because I'm like, well, the truth shouldn't be divisive, because the truth is the truth. And that's where empathy comes in. We've talked about empathy. We did a whole show on what empathy was. If you were able to hear what it actually means and actually embrace the truth. I'm not saying that we have to celebrate the truth. It's about embracing it and accepting it for what it is, and how we're going to move forward as a country so we can be all one. Because right now we're not. And we haven't been forever. But if people keep running away from the truth and all that, then it's going to be a revolving door at the end of the day. And I kind of want to go into the next point that I want to make about, and I talked to you, Brandon, about this because I want to talk about this, and I do want your take on it, is when individuals, I'm sorry, y'all, and before I even get into this, I want to...
Before you go there, can I drill down on critical race theory a little bit more?
Yeah.
It's like 3 paragraphs I want to read right quick. They're real short ones. So critical race theory is an academic concept that is more than 40 years old. It ain't new, y'all. The core idea is that racism is a social construct, like you said earlier, and that is not merely a product of the individual bias or prejudice. It's not just individuals being racist, but it's also something embedded in legal systems and policies. That's what they don't want, right? Because then your story of, oh, I worked hard and I got here and you can get here too, and everybody in America has the same opportunity. You can't say that bull no more. The basic tenets of critical race theory, or CRT, emerged out of a framework for legal analysis in the late 1970s and early 1980s, created by legal scholars Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, and Richard Delgado, among others. A good example is when in the 1930s, government officials literally drew lines around areas deemed poor financial risks, often explicitly due to racial composition of inhabitants. Redlining. Banks subsequently refused to offer mortgages to Black people in those areas. So, just to lay some foundational groundwork, that critical race theory, if you don't support it, it's probably you probably didn't hear a basis or a good foundation, because nobody that I have not heard, everybody that I've heard be critical of critical race theory, never gives a good example. They deny that systemic racism exists. They deny the reality of the Black experience in America and how we've been boxed and legislated out, you know, through housing, through jobs, through slavery, Jim Crow, all of that. And critical race, huh?
Red
Yeah,
line.
and so the basic idea of critical race theory is to bring that into play so we can humanize. I think really what it is humanizing the Black experience in America, letting white people know and others, other non-Blacks and even Black people know that the experience and the reality that you live in right now, how did we get here? That's what it really is. Okay, on to the next point.
So I want to go to the next point in reference to, and once again, I'll say, you know, I don't want to, you know, I'm not, my intention is not to come off as targeting all white people or targeting, I'm not, but I got to say this. And I talked to Brandon about this offline before we even got on here, is that, and I think that there's no malice, there's no harm with this statement, but I really want my white lovely friends and my white people that I do speak to on a regular basis, if you do run across this video, I just or this show, I want you all to really understand the other side of the statement that I'm getting ready to say. Okay. So I talked to Brandon earlier today, and I said that one thing that really doesn't sit well with me, and I've never said anything in the past because I understand the intent behind what they said, but there's impact that I did not express because during that time, during the times that I would hear this comment, I would just brush it off and be like, you know what, I know they mean well, but but there's a layer behind that I have to address. And I'm saying this now, and I'm going to be saying it from here on out to my white friends if I hear this comment again. But I am saying it now. So the comment that I want to address is when some of the white friends that I've had, when we talk about race and like racial inequality or anything dealing with like me experiencing racism or someone being racist towards me, a lot of some of my white friends have said, "Oh, well, you know what, Andre? Like, you know, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that, but you know what? At the end of the day, for me, I don't see color. I don't see color. We're all the same." And you know what my question behind that is? Well, what do you see then? If you don't, because I see color because I'm looking at the color of my skin. I know mine different than yours. So what are you seeing? If you don't see color, then you don't see me. If you don't see color, then you don't see me as a Black American in this country. You don't see Brandon as a Black American in this country. So I feel that when someone that is white says I don't see color, the intent, I'll say this, their intent in most cases is, hey, we're all the same. I don't look at color because at the end of the day, I look at you the same way I would look at my white counterpart. That is what they mean by that statement, most of them. But what I'll say to you is you have to be careful with that statement because you're saying I don't see color, and I'm looking at myself like, well, should I see it? So if I see it and you don't, then what's missing here? Because I'm seeing something that you don't see. And it could be offensive and it could affect people of color if you say, I don't see color, because there are things that we experience as people of color that you'll never experience. So if you're telling me you don't see color, then, and you're my friend, then shoot, the folks that were racist towards me definitely saw me. The ones that
Yeah.
are actually mistreating me saw my color, and this, which is the reason why I got discriminated against.
Yeah.
You're telling me you don't see what the racist folks see. That's not. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's the no. I don't think a lot of my white friends have thought deeper into that realm because they're looking at it as like, oh no, I don't see color, honey. No, no, we the same. No, sweetie.
Yeah.
No, we're very different. Yes,
Yeah.
we have similarities. We have things in common when it comes to things how we live our lives and different cultures. Even the same cultures. Some white and black families have the same kind of upbringing, but at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, my skin color is different than yours. So I
Mm-hmm.
believe that white people have to just be a little bit more careful in that statement. Instead of
Yeah.
saying I don't see color, this is what I recommend you say. Instead of saying I don't see color, say, hey, I look at you and me the same, but I definitely see you. I see you for who you are and I embrace
Mhm.
who you are.
Yeah.
So instead of saying I don't see the color, I think it's better off to say, hey, we
Mm-hmm.
we are we are the same. We I'm going to treat you as if we are the same, but I definitely see you for who you are as a person of color. Because I
Mm-hmm.
want you to see me. I don't want you to not see
Right.
color because I'm full of color, honey. I'm looking at my skin now, honey. I ain't white. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. So I want you to see my color. I don't want you to not see it. So
Another point to that too is even I think oftentimes um I think white people are put on the defense in the culture that we live in, and I try to put myself in everyone's shoes. And even if you are a person who has said I don't see color, the rest of our society does. And that's what critical race theory is taking a look at it. And I think the importance of critical race theory is it's like we can no longer act like slavery was, oh, that was just a couple hundred years ago. You know how like it's legislated that we celebrate the Jewish Holocaust, but we don't talk about uh, the Congo, King Leopold. Like we don't talk about the things that have happened to Black people. We don't even talk about the depravity of slavery and what Europeans did, who came to this country, who brought Africans to this country. We don't go to the depths of it. Like, oh, slavery, that was over. Haven't the laws changed? Let me give you an example. So, how's critical race theory like? What does it look like today? It looks like this. Today, the same patterns of discrimination live on through facially race blind policies like single family zoning that prevents the building of affordable housing in advantaged majority white neighborhoods, and thus STEMIs, or I never heard that word, STEMIs,
when I
STEMIs, racial desegregation efforts. So, right, like critical race theory is not this, oh, all white people are the oppressors and all Black people are oppressed. That's how people are describing it on Fox News. I hear Black people trying to describe it as, oh, I don't want to tell my kids that they're always going to be oppressed and this and that and this and that. I could tell you, my dad had a conversation with me. He said, Brandon, some people are just going to see you for your skin color. Some people are just going to see you. You're going to be seen as Black. And that's all they're going to see. So you're going to have to work harder than everyone else. And he was like, the sooner you get over that, the easier your life will be. I remember saying, it's not fair. And, that's not right. And he was like, I know, but it's imperative for you to accept a piece of this reality. You ain't got to be you ain't got to be okay with it. They raised me to be a person to stand up for other people. They raised me to stand up for myself. Um, but it is the reality, Andre. Like, I mean, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, and I mean it kind of goes back to what I said about individuals that say that critical race theory is divisive because it is the truth. And it goes back to what you said about, and you gave a very good definition, also a good definition of critical race theory. It kind of mirrored what I said as well.
Mhm.
And I think that it's very imperative that um, white people, not all white people, but some of the white people in this country, to really take a deeper dive into what it is and actually understand it from another perspective. Because your perspective, the thing is, your perspective, yes, the use individual saying that critical race theory is divisive. Why is it divisive?
Mm-hmm.
That's my question, because it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, Brandon, critical with it's the truth. It's
Yep.
not a fallacy. It's not. We're not coming out of our necks with this information. This stuff is documented. There's document. I mean, the laws literally in the legal institutions that are in place in the United States is not set up
Right.
to protect people of color, especially Black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
isn't. And if a white person cannot see that, then I don't really know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like I said, the intent, I understand the intent behind what I said earlier about a white person saying that I don't see color. Well, you're
Yeah.
just basically making me invisible. If you
Yeah.
don't see color, then you're making my experience go away. Even though that
Yeah.
may not be your intent, but that is the impact that it has on me. The impact
Mm-hmm.
that it has on me as a Black person is if you don't see the color of my skin, then you don't see my experience.
Right.
That could be that's now that can be divisive.
Yeah.
If we
And
want to talk
I
about
think
something that's divisive, is you
uh
not seeing the color of my skin. But to say critical race theory is divisive is just very confusing to me. That's all.
yeah. Yeah. And critical race theory forces a reckoning by providing the historical facts and the data to back it up. And there is like it's interesting to me when it comes to Black people in America, it's like we are the last, even though we're always, the news constantly talks about how Black people are disproportionately affected by poverty, disproportionately affected in the prison industrial complex, disproportionately affected, but like nothing is being done about it. So that was kind of like the celebration I had today about Juneteenth, and like, okay, I can celebrate it my way. We can talk about critical race theory on the show. These two things I think go very well together because it is a step in the right direction to have people focus on the historical facts of this country. Like, let's take the conversation a little further. So we talk about white people. Does critical race theory say all white people are racist? Isn't that racist too? The theory says that racism is part of everyday life. So people, white or non-white, who don't intend to be racist, can nevertheless make choices that fuel racism.
Ooh.
Some people make these choices knowingly and others don't. Remember Amy and Christian Cooper? Ain't that funny that didn't have the same last name? The bird watcher, the Black guy, and the woman who said, I'm going to call the police and tell them a Black man. That is fueling racism knowingly. Some people, it may be out of their purview and they may not even know. The people who say, oh, I don't see color, maybe it's so normalized that maybe in America, like over the last few years, Andre, I think that it became more racist in America to talk about racism and to point it out than to actually be racist. When you talked about racism, when you talked about inequities and inequalities, you were the racist, you were the race baiter. Oh, you make everything about race. Well, what is not about race? And I've said that on this show before. What is not about race?
And I mean, it even goes back to what we talked about, I think, on the last pop up of that Black woman selling a home and 125,000, but then when took her race out of it, and the brother, the white male, went in there, almost double, actually tripled what the amount was when it was a Black woman selling the home. So it's just. I mean, I feel like that's literally information that some white people run away from. And then their excuse is, oh, critical race theory is divisive. Well, it is. It is. Well, I want you to explain to me, why is it divisive to you then? Especially when they don't even apply to you.
Yeah.
It don't even apply. if you want to be technical about critical race theory, it does not really apply to white people. It applies to the people of color, where the laws in the legal institutions affect. I mean, it affects people of color. So I'm just like, so it's like, wow, for anyone that's white to say critical, and I'm not talking about all white people. For people that are white, some of y'all, to say that critical race theory is divisive, how? When it's not, it doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't even apply. The definition of critical race theory does not negatively impact white people.
It does. I see how it does, and I wish, I don't know how, like, for some reason I can't play videos on here, but I would love to have played the video of Jane Elliott, you know, when she talked about basically if we taught the truth about history and where human life came from, how we all came from Africa, and if we taught the truth about these things, then there wouldn't be any more white exceptionalism. And I feel like that is the main reason why. Because think about what Rick Santorum was teaching those young Americans who happen to be white, was white exceptionalism. What is Thomas Jefferson? When we honor our founding fathers and we don't look at the whole context of who they were, when we say the Constitution says all men were created equal and this and that and this and that, when we just say that and we don't have the context and the historical backing behind it to be like, you know what, Thomas Jefferson may have wrote that, but at the same time he owned slaves.
That's what, Brandon,
right?
I talked about that on the show first season.
You did, and you said it earlier, but I'm going back to it because it's a perfect point on how we need the full context of it all, because all of it is the truth. And if we minimize any part of it, then we can never have, like, I think Brian Stevenson, we should definitely do a show and highlight him. He does a lot of work. He says a lot of great work. He says, if we leave one of us broken, then we're all broken. If America, that's why I really fully believe America will never heal as a nation until they do right. Everyone else in this country got reparations. Black people consistently legislated against, and I gave an example earlier. Now, what's interesting about this, like how critical race theory is under attack, is so the bills that are being, you know, put out to say you cannot teach that here is so vaguely written, and they're not clear at all on what it actually covers. So when it comes to teaching in school, here's some more stuff right here. Could a teacher who wants to talk about a factual instance of state-sponsored racism, like the establishment of Jim Crow, the series of laws that prevented Black Americans from voting or holding office and separated them from white people in public spaces, be considered in violation of these laws? So, like, how much are they whitewashing it? Because when it comes to critical race theory, like, now it's like a broad stroke. Like, none of that would be talked about. And those are things that's sort of talked about in public education right now, depending on where you go to school. Right. It's also unclear whether these new bills are constitutional or whether they impermissibly restrict free speech. So think about conservative Republicans, and I ain't just really trying to attack one side, but that one side seems to be trying to rewrite history, just like they're trying to rewrite what happened on January 6th. The Capitol insurrection.
I'm gonna get a water. I'll be right back.
Huh?
I'm gonna go get a water. I'll be back.
Okay. So continuing on, it would be extremely difficult in any case to police what goes on inside of hundreds of classrooms. But social studies educators fear that such laws could have a chilling effect on teachers who might self-censor their own lessons out of concern for parent or administrator complaints. So now teachers can't even do their job and educate their students because now they're worried about what the parents are going to say. As English teacher Mike Stein told Chalkbeat, Tennessee about the new law, he said history teachers cannot adequately teach about the Trail of Tears, the Civil War, and the Civil Rights Movement. English teachers will have to avoid teaching almost any text by an African American author because many of them mention racism to various extents. So this is like a total removal. To me, this is cultural genocide. Like, I mean, that's a strong statement, but like, to me, now you don't even want to talk about, instead of in 2021, can y'all really believe in 2021, like this these parties, these conservatives, these political people who believe a certain way are trying to remove all of the knowledge that we have. Not only so, for years, we haven't learned about this in public schools. Depending on where you went, maybe you learned a little bit of it, but it's not often that you learn about these things until you get to graduate school, right? Or yeah, undergraduate, till you go for your bachelor's degree, till you go to community college or something. It's not often that you're going to learn about these kinds of things. So the laws could also become a tool to attack other pieces of the curriculum, including ethnic studies and action civics, an approach to civics education that asks students to research local civic problems and propose solutions. So now it's like, you know what, you're going to take all this out. You know what happens when you hang out with everybody who thinks like you, everyone who looks like you? You miss out on the wisdom that you're surrounded by. So like it's a total attempt. So now look at how like not only are these people wanting to attack the study of America and American history, but now they want to make sure that American history is only whiteness. Is that not scary?
Very.
So when I think about this, that's what made me be like, okay. And I listened to Roland Martin and I listened to some Black news folks. And I'm like, okay, I can see why Juneteenth at the federal level, it's almost like, you're gonna have to focus on this now. So y'all are fighting critical race theory, but now Juneteenth is a holiday, and we know that even after slavery ended, it was like how many more years? 93 to 100 more years of Jim Crow. So, but at least now they will have to focus on it, right?
Mm-hmm. It's bringing attention to it.
It is, and I think that is positive in any day, in any case.
And I also got to say that even critical race theory, and I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. Critical race theory was avoided at Diomi.
Sure was. A lot of stuff was avoided at Diomi. I think that was the most important part. And I would define critical race theory in that context as talking about, like, they took us through the color lines, right? They took us through what happened with blacks in the military and not being able to use the GI Bill and slavery. They took us through all this, but you know what they didn't show us? The impacts of today. That's what critical race theory does. It takes all of that and brings it to the place of where we are today and lets other people see what the Black experience is like. Now I can totally understand and see why people are against it. Number one, because a lot of people just don't have the knowledge, right? So people in America are conditioned to respond to something emotionally before having an understanding and the wisdom of what something really means. So they think critical race theory is something that teaches that all the white kids are the oppressors of the Black kids. That's not what it's teaching. And for those people to think that that's what it's teaching, I'm like, you must really be a racist. You must really be a white supremacist if you think that that's what people want to teach your children. And I'm not saying there's no people who support that in critical race theory, because maybe there are. We always know that there's extremes within it, but the basis of it is not that. Kind of like the basics of Black Lives Matter is Black Lives Matter with the focus on police brutality, right? People can try to make Black Lives Matter about all these other things. They can say, oh, what about Black on Black crime? Well, guess what? The premise of Black Lives Matter was Black Lives Matter against police brutality. That was their aim. When we look at campaigns, are campaigns not targeted? Campaigns are targeted, right? So that was the focus. And that is an issue that's been going on for decades. And maybe, just maybe, the thought was, guess what? If Black lives can matter when it comes to policing, then maybe Black lives can matter to other Black lives. Nobody ever really made that connection, huh? Like maybe if we're treated fairly in a country, if we're treated righteously in our own country, then maybe we can respect one another better. I'm not saying we should wait for that. I'm not saying that. My point is, what if we didn't see black bodies being murdered in the street, like Michael Brown murdered, y'all just leave him there for hours? What if we didn't see the constant barrage of black people being gunned down by police? Like, what if we didn't see that? What would that do for the psyche of the black folks in America? What would that do for the rest of America? What would that do for the white people in America? For the non-black people in America? What would that do for all of us? For everybody, for every American citizen, what would that do for us? Maybe there wouldn't be a need to say Black Lives Matter. Maybe people, well, James Baldwin said that, how did he say it? He said that white people walk around with like a constant fear, like a suppressed fear of black people. So maybe that wouldn't exist. And then if there was a culture where Black lives did matter, I don't think there would be any pushback to critical race theory. Do you, Andre?
Mm-mm.
I think the fact that there's pushback to something that is an attempt to look at the problems of a lack of equity and diversity and education, and as much as they talk about the disproportionality of how black people are affected and things, I don't understand why anybody would be against the idea of teaching critical race theory. I mean, I feel like we slaughtered that topic. And I watched a story today, and I wanted to play the video for y'all, but I couldn't get Chrome to work, and I don't know how to do it on Firefox. So, but there's a gentleman, speaking of something that goes along with this, he's been in prison for 43 years, and he's innocent. And it was on the ABC special, and he just turned 62, and he's in jail for a triple murder that he didn't commit. And I think I found it. Article right here. And the interesting thing about it is 2 people confessed to the murder. They did 10 years and they're out of prison. And he's been incarcerated for 43 years and he didn't do it. And his name is Kevin Strickland, and he's a black man. He's in a wheelchair.
Are they black as well, or what?
Yes, they were black as well. And they were suspects back then. And racism is the reason why he's in jail now. And his name is Kevin Strickland. And this is in Kansas City. 42 years. And there was a triple murder. And 2 other people confessed to it. They did 10 years and they got out. He had an alibi. There was no physical evidence. And the 2 gunmen cleared Strickland. The 2 gunmen said we did it, and he didn't.
So he's still in there because the
governor won't pardon him. And get this, the governor just pardoned like 30-something people. And guess whose name went on the list? Kevin Strickland. So what the prosecutor did to get him in jail, and this is back in, 1978. So what I'm gonna read a little bit of the story, then get it.
He lived the majority of his life in prison for not.
Yep. So he's 61 now. He's in a wheelchair, and there's a legal petition that this says the state robbed him of his youth, health, and freedom. The Midwest Innocent Project paints a picture of a racist, botched legal process that was more focused on securing convictions than finding the truth in a 1978 Kansas City triple murder. 4 people were tied up and attacked by at least 4 gunmen inside a home at 69th Street and Benton Boulevard. All the victims were shot. 2 men and 1 woman died. A 4th woman was shot in the leg and pretended to be dead. She later crawled out of the house to get help. So the filing spells out the key points. Strickland had an alibi verified by numerous people. No physical evidence connected to the crime. 2 admitted gunmen cleared Strickland in sworn confessions. The prosecutor struck black potential jurors in a second trial, alluding to the mistake of allowing a black jury in the first trial, which resulted in a hung jury.
For this
Racism.
long.
Racism. So the first time it was a hung jury, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna make sure we have an all-white jury." So that's what they did. The only survivor tried to fix the mistake. The surviving victim claimed police pressured her into identifying Strickland, who closely resembled the real gunman. What's so
Girl.
What's so crazy about this story is the fact that growing up, that was my greatest fear. That I'll be framed, that I would look like somebody who committed a crime. And part of that, I think, is racist in nature, because of the way they frame statistics. Oh, black men commit most of the violent crimes. When get out of here with all that. But I'll keep going. Just pick Strickland. They told her, just pick Strickland out of the lineup and we'll be done. It will all go away and you can go on and you don't have to worry about these guys no more. Cynthia Douglas recalled to Strickland's legal team. Douglas died in 2015. Much of the case hinged on her identification. Ooh, why do we do this to one another? The filing points out an injured witness who had been drinking and smoking pot is now recognized in today's standards as largely unreliable. So she was drunk and high. Strickland's legal team points out Douglas herself contacted the Midwest Innocence Project for help years ago and tried to directly work with the prosecutor to resolve a wrongful conflict. She had sent an email, and this email was in 2009, Andre. Douglas had listened to other gunmen admit to the crimes in court confessions and realized Strickland was not involved. It was another man who was similar in height and build to Strickland. The admitted killer, Vincent Bell, back in 1979. He said, "But I'm telling you the truth today that Kevin Strickland wasn't there at the house that day. I'm telling you the truth. Kevin Strickland wasn't at that house. I'm telling the state and the society out there right now that Kevin Strickland wasn't there at that house. I'm telling you today, Kevin Strickland wasn't at that house." This man is still in jail. Prosecutors never went back to free Strickland. In the end, 2 gunmen cut deals and served 10 years each. A third suspect was never even charged. And the 4th gunman, who was confused with Strickland, simply walked on this crime.
So he's just been living his life, just, out here he didn't.
Only Strickland, who's now in a wheelchair, remains in prison. He has maintained his innocence for more than 43 years. Now, I don't know if they're going to get to this part, but I was watching this story, and guess what? In the state of Missouri, there's no, I think it's like this. If he's not exonerated, he doesn't get any compensation. So he doesn't want a pardon. He doesn't want his sentence. What's that called? Is a C word? I don't remember. Basically, they say, "Oh, enough time served." He said he didn't want that because it's like, that's like saying I did it when I didn't do this. And, then you just, is it commence something, where they basically say you done served enough time, you can get out of jail now. So the current prosecutor supports Strickland's release. The current prosecutor wants him out of jail. She said they made a mistake. It's clearly wrong. And she's sorry. And the governor ain't doing theat. I said theat. The new petition points out the current prosecutor supports Strickland's immediate release. We are grateful to John Peters Baker and the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office for their support of Mr. Strickland's innocence and their work reviewing his case. The evidence of Mr. Strickland's innocence is clear, and we applaud the prosecutor's office for fulfilling their duty as ministers of justice to ensure that justice is done, in this case, doing everything possible to help exonerate an innocent man. Now, Andre, the whole time I'm thinking about this, can you guess what I'm thinking about? What I'm thinking about is how many more, this is one we heard of, how many more people who look like us, because we don't have something like critical race theory, because we keep having the Black experience denied in America, how many more innocent people are serving jail time for crimes that they didn't commit?
Brandon, I did a show. We did a show on this.
We
First,
did.
I
We
talked
did.
about the man that was in prison,
Maybe
and
we was
I talked about this. This was
look.
talked about.
You know what we should do? We should play our old show and just watch ourselves like.
Oh, that's another good. We need to do that once a month. I think once a month we need to go back. We need to do this here, and then you put it on, and we watch ourselves talk, and then we can pause it and be like, oh my god, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I literally did. I had a topic. I can't remember the name of the topic, but I talked about folks in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma being the number one
You
most
did.
jailed folks of people of color. A lot of them
Mhm.
for crimes they didn't commit. Some got 30 years for drugs, 30 years for selling drugs. There's so much going on. The white
Yeah.
counterpart only did 3 years, but the black person did 35. Like, why? 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 Why?
But there ain't no racism though, and y'all against critical race theory being taught.
And it's divisive. It's divisive.
It's divisive, but not ripping people from their homes who have alibis, no evidence, and you putting innocent people in jail who didn't commit crimes, and they exonerated, and the dude said 5 times in the courtroom. Could you imagine that? I cannot imagine 43 years. I'm gonna finish this. This is real short, real quick. Innocence Cases and the Midwest Innocence Project. So this is a whole project that's designed to get people out of jail. Strickland is represented by the Midwest Innocence Project, the same group which helped free Lamont McIntyre, Richard Jones, Floyd Bledsoe, Ricky Kidd, and Pete Coons. Pete Coons, yeah, Coons. They point out studies estimate between 2 and 7% of prisoners are actually innocent. There we go.
Repeat that again.
They point out studies estimate between 2 and 7% of prisoners are actually innocent, and that
that's too many,
right? And 1 in 25 people on death row is innocent.
Ooh.
So we got innocent people locked up, and we got innocent people on death row, and
we got people that actually did it living free. Mm-hmm. Yeah, living their life, living their best life, and have kids, families, and everything. Then commit a crime, got away with it. Yeah. And that's any race. We're not even talking about just black people. This is white folks, Asian folks, Hispanics, all of us. It's a whole bunch of folks in prison or jail for crimes they didn't commit. But it just so happens that black folks just seem to be in the brunt of it, though. That's all.
And why do you think that is? Because I mean, look, we're demonized in the media. The thug, right? The thug. Eyewitness misidentification is the single greatest cause of wrongful convictions, contributing to nearly 70% of DNA exonerations. So people saying, "Oh, you look like you did the crime. Oh, you look like you a bad dude." Remember we heard the police officer say that. Oh, he looks like he's a bad dude. I got cat hair everywhere. Got cat hair flying everywhere.
That boo looked like he was trying to give you kisses and stuff.
He was.
I saw him on your lap, clawing up on you and stuff.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Hey," Strickland will be one of the most dramatic cases of wrongful incarceration if recognized by the court due to the length of his imprisonment, 42 years and counting. Richard Phillips served 46 years for a crime he did not commit, according to the Innocence Project. Liddell Lee was executed 4 years ago. Just last week, DNA revealed a different man's DNA was found on a murder weapon. Lee maintained his innocence the entire time.
It's too much.
Yeah, it is. You know what I was thinking we need to do too. So I feel like we should start a new trend. We should start our show and end our show with a positive story every time. Good news, because we know we're going to talk about some deep stuff, and we're going to talk about the issues that affect people's lives. I mean, this man was not able to see his daughter. His daughter called someone else dad. The interviewer kept asking him about, how does he feel? And he was like, "You keep asking me, about my feelings." He was like, I don't even know how to describe it or where to begin, or, I'm sort of numb now. He's in a wheelchair now. He doesn't feel like
he's in a wheelchair though.
He's in a wheelchair. He doesn't feel like he has much time left, and he really wants to see his mother.
Oh, his mother's still around.
His mother's still around. So
Oh,
he really wants to see his mom.
they
So
need to release that man today.
today, for real, like, why is he still in there? Can you believe that?
Especially when they know he didn't do it. There's so many people that
Yeah.
didn't do it. So what's the governor doing?
What do they do? Yes. And to me, so like, tell me how. Tell me that racism is the reason why he's in there. Why is he still in there now? Racism is literally the reason why he's in there. The juror made sure that they had no black folks on the jury. I mean, sorry, the prosecutor made sure they had no black folks on the jury. The first time there was one black person, hung jury. He said, "I'll make sure this ain't gonna happen again." He told Kevin Strickland, "I'll make sure this ain't gonna happen next time."
And this is in the 70s. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm he needs to get out right now.
Yep. I'm praying on that. Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody in the world gonna want to interview him. Oprah, everybody gonna be wanting to interview him.
Yeah.
60, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and the way that the law is set up, I mean, I hope that he gets out, and I hope he is exonerated, and they need to pay that man
I feel
43
that
years.
the state ain't gonna pay him because I mean, obviously the governor there. So,
Mm,
but he needs to get paid. He needs to be in a
mm,
nice home. He needs to be whatever home he in. There better not be no house. No, it need to be paid for,
mm-hmm,
not paid for, paid for. And
mm-hmm.
he needs to be living out the last few years he's got and see his mama. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Oh,
yep, and see his daughter. I mean, that man, look, they owe him. I mean, he should get everything he wants. He should get a
and I
living
feel
chef. He should get a house. He should get a car. They should get him everything he needs for the rest of his life. 43 years?
his mama is still alive.
I know.
Can you imagine your son just locked up and you done got old, he done got
Mm,
old,
mm,
the the important years, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you in prison. Those are the
mm-hmm,
your 30s and 40s are like your best years.
mm-hmm,
In prison, just locked up.
mm-hmm,
He could have had more children, all that stuff.
mm-hmm.
Could have been booed up, married, had a whole career, almost retiring, but in prison.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. Oh my gosh.
Mm,
And I'm not gonna lie, I did have my thoughts of like, oh Lord, am I gonna be misidentified too? Because I'm black. Do I look like somebody that committed a crime? Am I
yeah.
gonna get arrested? Like, what's going?
Yeah.
It's scary in these streets.
It is, huh? Mm.
So, are we gonna end on a positive note before we go? Because we've
Yes.
been on for a minute.
Yes, I was looking for a good news story. I found one.
I found some. Well, I found something too, but
Oh, you go ahead.
no, you go first.
Okay, so this is a story about a high schooler graduating. Instead of skipping graduation to work at Waffle House, his boss and coworkers cooked up miracles to get him there. As we all know, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, and sometimes those of high school seniors do as well. Timothy Harrison of Center Point, Alabama, planned to attend his high school graduation. He even cleared it with his boss to take time off. But when the day of the ceremony dawned, Harrison found himself stranded. The event was being held an hour away from home, with his family members working and no one able to drive him there. Much to the surprise of his manager, Cedric Hampton, Harrison showed up for his regular 7 a.m. shift at the local Waffle House. Once Hampton heard the details of Harrison's dilemma, not only did he have a way to get to the graduation, but he'd missed out on picking up his ticket, cap, and gown. The quick thinking of the manager immediately marshaled his Waffle House troops for action. I like how they said that. I could see in his eyes that he really wanted to go, and I was going to get him there no matter what, Hampton told the Washington Post. No kid should miss their high school graduation. After being ferried to school to retrieve his cap and gown, back at the Waffle House, the elated senior was outfitted in a brand new ensemble, picked up and paid for by his coworkers. So they gave him a nice outfit with a little help from some generous restaurant patrons. We decided we were going to step in and take care of everything for him, so you could really celebrate this day. A couple of customers contributed as well, Hampton told the Post. Within a few hours, we were able to get everything taken care of. Harrison was now properly attired, but they still had to get him to the 3 o'clock ceremony on time. It was a close call, but thanks to Hampton, the soon to be graduate just made it. While his coworkers weren't able to accompany the young man inside, they couldn't have been prouder of him. He said, "When I sat down in the auditorium, it was the best moment of my life," Harrison told WBRC News. "This is a memory I will cherish forever. I'm going to tell my kids about this." Harrison, Harrison, who's only been at his job a little over a month, nonetheless now considers his Waffle House posse like kin and credits his work family, Patriarch Hampton, for stepping up, and being able or willing to go the extra mile for him. The old saying goes, "It takes a village to raise a baby," Hampton told WBRC. "I'm just happy to be part of that village." Once word of the day's events made the local news, Harrison's village got a whole lot bigger. Since the WBRC story aired, he was offered a full scholarship at Birmingham's Lawson State Community College. It was only fitting that when Harrison recently toured the college campus, Hampton was by his side. "I'm his full-time mentor," Hampton told the Post. "I feel really good about what's about to happen next for him, and I'll always be there along the way." Life may not offer any guarantees, but at least Timothy Harrison knows that should his best laid plans ever go awry again, he's got a village in his corner to help him get things back on track, and it doesn't get any better than that. That's a great story.
It is. So you are so delayed. So I'm just hoping that the viewers didn't see that, but I don't know how your Wi-Fi connection's going, but it was. Yeah, I heard you loud and clear, but your face wasn't matching your talking.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'm gonna read my positive story. Yours was very long. I thought it was gonna be a little shorter than that, but very good story.
Don't be throwing shade at me.
I threw a little bit of shade. It's a little long, but it was great. It was great. So Rick Ross saves money by flying commercial and cutting his own grass. So Rick Ross is very wealthy, very rich. But one thing that I noticed with Rick Ross is,
I said, huh?
Yeah, him right there. He flies commercial on his flights and he cuts his own grass. So I don't know if you all know, but Rick Ross has a very, very big property, and I think he has, about 20 acres of land, but he cuts his own grass. So I'm gonna read this little short thing. It says Rick Ross is well known for his luxury lifestyle raps and his big money boasts, but as it turns out, he has a very responsible outlook towards spending and saving his money. Sharing some of his cost-cutting, money-making hacks with Forbes magazine in a new interview, he stated that when he became a young millionaire for the first time, "I went to my mother because she had always been a registered nurse and worked 2 or 3 jobs. She always bought real estate. So she came from Clarksdale, where the real estate was a lot cheaper. She would just keep buying houses, and I would say, 'Mom, what do you think about the stock market?' And she would say, 'Son, I don't really rock with the stock market. I don't know much about it, but I do know about real estate. So when you buy something, make sure you can touch it.'" So so basically, I downplayed the acres. His Fayetteville estate, y'all. He said this. You know how Holyfield spent $1 million a year to cut the grass? Well, he went down to John Deere and asked to see the biggest tractor. So the most efficient tractor. So he's told them that he had 200 plus acres that I want to keep cut, and they pointed out the right tractor for him. So he bought it right then on the spot, filled it up with gas, y'all, and he says it takes 5 hours to cut 200 acres of land. And he cuts his grass every other week. So he further explains how he can find the process therapeutic, spending time connecting with the estate and the animals and the birds and the wildlife. So Ross also let it slip that he'd rather buy antiques at a swap meet than spend a lot decorating, and that he flies commercial instead of owning a private jet. So for me to see that from someone as big as Rick Ross, who could literally get his own jet and fly anywhere he wants to. Because it's, I mean, I admire it. And he's still a boss. He's flying commercial and all that stuff, and he is cutting his own grass, but he's still a boss. And I think that I can respect it. I mean, and he lost over 90 pounds. He's a lot smaller now, so he's not the big guy that we used to see. So he's on a health kick now, and I'm happy for Rick Ross. You know, I think people misconstrue or misinterpret what Rick Ross is about because he's really rough around the edges and he's very vulgar in his raps and stuff like that, very sexual and talking about vagina all over the place and everything. But as far as Rick Ross as a person, I think he's grounded, and I just wanted to shout out Rick Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good story. I'm glad he's, and you know what? It is a good thing to connect with nature anytime. I would say 5 hours to cut some grass. I don't know about that. 5 hours.
Yeah, because 5 hours.
Good God Almighty, 5 hours to cut your grass. 200 acres, though. I mean, I guess you ain't. What else you gonna do?
I mean,
you got 200 acres.
I thought it would be longer than 5 hours. 200 acres. But he said he bought a big old tractor. That tractor is big. Yeah. So he's basically in the shade. Because the tractor's so big where he's covered, he's not exposed to the sun. The tractors, and I'm pretty sure he bought the expensive bougie kind that got AC coming out. So he good. He's just enjoying life, just cutting his grass. Like, I mean, you can't win. He can't lose for winning. You can't. So I just wanted to shout out Rick Ross because I thought that was a really good story. And to say, even though you got money, you can still humble yourself and get on a regular flight. Like for him to fly. So there are people that can say, I flew next to Rick Ross.
Yeah. My story was better though. So
I mean, your story was better. You can be shady on me since I shaded you. I was ready for it.
Well, we've been on for about our time. That was like perfect time. So I hope y'all enjoyed the show. You know, we share our opinions and our perceptions and our beliefs, and you know, we're always evolving as humans. We don't have the monopoly on wisdom or all the information. We're better with your wisdom. So we appreciate you watching. If you're watching this after the live stream, please comment, like, and share, and we will respond back to you. We're working on a website. So, you know, we got some things coming up, and then that way you'll be able to subscribe to the website, and hopefully we can go live from our website. So that way we won't be able to be shadow banned / Facebook jailed or anything else. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, definitely do that. Like, share, comment, and we'll see you back. Andre, we come back Sunday?
Yes, we can. We can come back on Sunday.
Yes, we can. Are we or are we? I'm kidding.
No, we are. And Brandon has a little promotion for this topic. It's storytelling, cultural portrayal. So he's going to show. I don't know if you have it available now, but he can go ahead and show it. Okay.
I do. Sunday, what time we coming on?
So I want to try a different time. It doesn't have to be 8 p.m. So I do have brunch with a new friend of mine. On Sunday. Her name is Michelle. Brunch is at 11. I'm having brunch with her at 11. But so I want to do like, because I don't want to do 8. I feel like 8's too late. So you want to try for like 4 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m.?
Sure.
Let's stick to 4. Yeah, let's do 4.
4. Okay.
So we're gonna do 4 p.m. for this show. Storytelling, cultural portrayal. Y'all will enjoy it. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yes, and I hope that we can get like my Wi-Fi situation together.
I know, and you know, Brandon and I have come up with some ideas of how we're going to change up the show and like how we're going to present things and stuff like that. So we're looking forward to some of these changes happening, just diversify the show. So
yeah, always keep it interesting. Okay, I'm gonna roll it. Roll it. and that it is cultural portrayal, storytelling. We'll be back Sunday at 4.
That was a beautiful woman on there, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So we thank y'all for joining us. We thank you for your support, and we'll see y'all next time. And I'm definitely gonna play the music on the way out. So see y'all.